Money, it controls everything we touch. The food we eat, the houses we dream of owning, the wars that rewrite history, and the power that shapes the modern world. Yet most people never question the system that governs their lives. We're taught that governments print money, banks store it, and we simply earn it. But that story is incomplete and dangerously misleading. Because in reality, banks don't just hold money. They create it out of nothing. Today, more than 95% of money isn't cash or coins you can hold in your hand. It exists only as digital numbers on screens, promises, entries in ledgers, symbols with no physical substance. When someone takes a loan, the bank doesn't hand over someone else's savings. Instead, something far more shocking happens. The bank simply types the amount into an account, and at that moment new money is born from thin air. Backed not by gold, not by real assets, but only by debt, the borrowers promise to repay more than they received through interest. This is the silent engine driving modern civilization. Money equals debt, and without ever expanding debt, the entire financial system would collapse overnight. If every loan in the world were paid back at once, almost all money would disappear instantly, and the economy would cease to exist. That is why governments borrow endlessly, why inflation never stops, and why ordinary people struggle while the wealthy rise higher every year. To understand the truth about money is to understand power, and those who understand it rule the world. To see how we arrived here, we must travel back through history, long before digital screens and global banks. For most of human civilization, money was something real, gold and silver, metals that held value of their own. But carrying treasure was dangerous, slow, and impractical. So people began storing their gold with local goldsmiths, who issued paper receipts representing deposits. Slowly, something unexpected happened. People began trading these receipts instead of the gold itself. Trust in paper replaced the weight of metal. That moment changed everything. Goldsmiths and early bankers discovered a secret that would reshape economics forever. Not everyone would demand their gold back at the same time. With that realization, they started printing more paper receipts than the gold they held. They created wealth that didn't exist, loaning it out with interest, and earning profit on money that was never real. This practice became known as fractional reserve banking. Whenever too many people demanded their gold, the illusion collapsed, triggering bank runs and economic panic. But instead of ending this system, governments eventually legalized it. And on December 23, 1913, power consolidated into one of the most influential institutions in history, the Federal Reserve, a private central bank controlling the money supply of the United States and, indirectly, the world. From that moment, money became nothing more than a belief, a system backed by confidence rather than gold. The more money they created, the more debt the world carried. Today, global debt exceeds $300 trillion, more than the value of every company, resource, and asset on Earth combined. And no one knows how this story ends. Inflation, the invisible thief, silently steals the value of money year after year, while most people never realize it's happening. Governments claim inflation is natural, a normal part of economic growth. But the truth is far different. Inflation is engineered. Every time new money is created, the value of every existing dollar shrinks. That's why food prices rise, why rent increases, and why salaries never seem to keep up. Inflation is the perfect tax, one that requires no law, no vote, no permission. We are told to work harder, save more, and be responsible. But saving in a system built on inflation guarantees loss. If money loses purchasing power every year, wealth is silently transferred upward, into the hands of those closest to the money printer. Central banks, hedge funds, and corporations benefit, while the middle class is squeezed and the poor drown in debt. Home ownership becomes a dream, retirement becomes uncertain, and daily survival becomes the priority. This isn't an accident. It's a design. A system that rewards those who control money creation and punishes those who exchange time for wages. Every crisis becomes an opportunity for the elite to tighten control. The financial system isn't collapsing. It's doing exactly what it was meant to do. And as the pressure increases, the cracks are beginning to show. A storm is forming, and when it arrives, the world we know may never look the same again. In 2008, the world witnessed one of the greatest economic disasters in modern history. What began as a housing market problem turned into a full-scale global financial meltdown. Major banks and investment firms, blinded by greed, had created mountains of risky loans and complex financial products they barely understood. When homeowners began defaulting, the system collapsed like dominoes. Stock markets crashed, businesses closed, and millions lost their homes and life savings. Families were shattered, retirement accounts evaporated, and unemployment rose like wildfire. For ordinary people, it was a nightmare. But behind closed doors, something very different was happening. Instead of letting the reckless institutions responsible for the crisis fail, governments and central banks rushed in to save them. Not with existing money, but with newly created money, printed electronically at the push of a button. This was called quantitative easing, or QE. Trillions of dollars were injected into the banking system, not to rescue citizens, but to rescue corporations, hedge funds, and the financial elite. The stock market rebounded quickly, and billionaires celebrated record profits, while the middle class continued to drown. What should have been a punishment became a reward. The crisis became a tool, a chance for the powerful to tighten control. The message was clear. When ordinary people fail, they lose everything. When the powerful fail, they get bailed out. The 2008 collapse was not just an economic disaster. It was the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history, and it revealed exactly who the financial system is designed to protect. Following 2008, something irreversible happened. Governments and central banks discovered a dangerous new habit: the belief that they can print unlimited money without consequences. Whenever the economy shakes, whenever markets fall, the solution is always the same. Print more, borrow more, spend more. The financial system can no longer survive without constant injections of newly created money. It has become addicted, a patient kept alive on artificial life support. But printing doesn't create real value. It creates inflation. Every time more money enters the system, every existing dollar becomes weaker. And yet, this strategy continues because it benefits those who own assets, stocks, real estate, commodities, all of which soar when money floods the system. The rich grow richer not through work, but through access. Meanwhile, salaries lag behind, prices explode, and the cost of living becomes unbearable for ordinary families. This is why young generations feel hopeless, why savings accounts are pointless, and why debts never shrink. The economy is now a balloon, constantly inflated, always at risk of bursting. Politicians promise growth, but growth built on printed money is an illusion. We are living in a bubble of confidence, and when confidence breaks, bubbles pop. The question is not if the system collapses, but what will trigger the collapse, and who will be left standing when it happens. Most people believe their government controls their economy. But the true power lies somewhere else, with central banks. These institutions, like the Federal Reserve in the United States, are not elected by the public, and yet they control something more powerful than any politician: the creation of money itself. They decide interest rates, they control inflation, and they determine the value of the currency you depend on. Central banks operate in secrecy, answer to no voters, and influence every aspect of daily life. Without permission, they can raise interest rates and crush businesses, or lower rates and inflate bubbles. They can create recessions, trigger unemployment, or fuel stock market booms, all with a single policy change. They are the invisible engine behind the global economy, and most people don't even know who they are. When they print money, markets cheer. When they pull money out, the world panics. This is not democracy, it is financial control. A system where the fate of billions rests in the hands of a few unelected individuals. And as debt grows and currencies weaken, central banks gain even more power. Because when people are desperate, they will accept solutions they once feared. And that solution is already coming, a new kind of money that could change freedom forever. As the world becomes more unstable and traditional currencies lose value, governments and central banks are preparing the next stage of financial evolution. Fully digital money. Today, most people already use digital payments, tapping phones, swiping cards, and transferring funds online. But this digital money is still connected to physical cash and private banking accounts. What's coming next is something entirely different. Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Unlike cryptocurrency, which is decentralized and unpredictable, CBDCs are controlled entirely by governments and central banks. Every transaction can be monitored, tracked, and even restricted at the push of a button. No banks, no privacy, just complete oversight. Supporters claim this will eliminate crime and make payments faster. But critics warn it will destroy the last remaining form of financial freedom. Imagine a world where every purchase is recorded. A world where your financial behavior determines what you're allowed to buy. A world where access to your own money can be frozen instantly if you disobey policies or criticize power. Digital money gives governments the ability not just to control currency, but to control people. In the wrong hands, money becomes a weapon. And once cash disappears, there is no escape. We already live in a world driven by data. Every click, every search, every movement is tracked, analyzed, and sold. Now imagine linking that surveillance directly to your bank account, your income, and your ability to buy necessities. That is the future central banks envision. CBDCs allow programmable money, currency that can be restricted or controlled automatically by algorithms. They can expire, be limited to certain purchases, or be reduced in value if not spent fast enough. Governments could enforce financial rewards for compliance and punishments for resistance. Buy too much fuel? Your carbon spending limit stops you. Support a protest movement? Your account is frozen. Speak against policy? Your access to travel or healthcare could be restricted. This isn't science fiction. It is already being tested today. Countries like China have already launched nationwide digital currency and tied it to social credit systems. Others are rushing to follow. Once society accepts digital control, power will centralize like never before. And when a crisis arrives, economic, political, or manufactured, people will trade freedom for security without hesitation. The most effective prison is the one people willingly walk into. Every financial system in history has eventually collapsed, from ancient Rome's debased coins to the hyperinflation of Weimar Germany and modern economic failures across the world. Today, the global economy is reaching its limit. Debt is growing faster than ever, inflation is crushing families, and central banks are running out of tools. When confidence breaks, the system resets. Not through choice, but through necessity. Many experts warn that the world is heading toward a massive financial reset. A moment when currencies collapse, markets crash, and a new system emerges from the ashes. For the powerful, crisis is opportunity. When people are afraid, they will accept drastic change. And the change waiting on the horizon is digital money, global banking integration, and a centralized system of economic control. The greatest transfer of power in history may soon occur. The world will be divided into those who understand what's happening, and those who discover too late that they were never in control. The question that remains is simple. When everything falls apart, will you be ready, or will you be owned by the system? For generations, people have believed they are free because they can vote, work, travel, and choose how to live. But true freedom is not measured by choices we are allowed to make. It is measured by the systems we cannot escape. And the one system no one can avoid is money. If you control money, you control society. You don't need armies when you can control income. You don't need prisons when you can freeze accounts. You don't need force when you can manipulate fear. Most citizens think they choose their leaders, but real power never changes hands in elections. Political parties argue on TV while the financial elite run the economy from behind closed doors. Governments come and go, but central banks remain. Presidents switch every few years, but banks, corporations, and investment giants like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street control trillions, influencing everything from housing prices to food supply and military decisions. You may vote for leaders, but you never vote for the people who actually run the world. The illusion of freedom keeps society calm. People believe they are in control, while in reality, they're trapped in a system designed to benefit a tiny percentage at the top. When you must work your entire life to pay debts created from nothing, freedom becomes fiction. And the moment the system senses rebellion, the solution is simple. Control the money, and you control the people. Behind every major global event, wars, elections, crises, media narratives, sits a hidden network of power. Not conspiracy theories, but documented reality. Today, less than 1% of the population owns more wealth than the remaining 99% combined. The richest corporations on Earth manage more money than most governments, and the world's largest banks decide economic fate without any public approval. Wealth has become concentrated like never before in history. A few financial institutions control the majority of global investment. They own media companies, pharmaceutical giants, technology empires, and defense contractors. They influence policies, shape public opinion, and ensure nothing changes that threatens their interests. And every crisis, whether economic, medical, or military, becomes an opportunity to expand their reach. While ordinary people fear losing jobs, homes, or savings, the elite fear only one thing: losing control. That is why transparency is discouraged, why complexity is necessary, and why the financial system is intentionally confusing. If the truth were obvious, people would revolt. But confusion keeps the world obedient. The system survives because most never understand they're inside it. Every collapse in history has created two kinds of people: those who lost everything, and those who emerged more powerful than before. The difference wasn't luck, it was preparation. Understanding the system is the first step. The second is taking control of your own value. In a world where money can vanish with a keystroke, real security comes from assets that cannot be printed or digitally erased. In times of crisis, people rush to gold, property, skills, networks, and knowledge. Wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep when everything else fails. The future belongs to those who learn before it's too late. When the financial reset arrives, quietly or violently, the world will divide. Some will panic and obey. Others will rise because they understood the truth and acted early. History rewards those who see the storm before everyone else. This system was not built to protect you. It was built to control you. But knowledge breaks chains. And once you see the architecture of power, you can no longer be ruled by it. There comes a moment in every era when people begin to see the truth, when the illusion cracks, and the system can no longer hide behind promises and propaganda. Today, more people than ever are questioning the world around them. They're asking why prices rise faster than paychecks, why debt increases no matter how hard they work, why billionaires double their wealth while families struggle, and why governments always find money for war, but never enough for education, healthcare, or basic dignity. The awakening has already begun. People are realizing that the economy is not broken, it was built this way. They are discovering that freedom is not given, it is taken. And once people learn how money truly works, the spell breaks. Elites fear a population that understands. They fear knowledge, unity, and awareness more than any revolution. Because systems of control collapse the moment people stop believing in them. This is why truth is censored, why independent thinkers are silenced, and why distraction is constant. They want you entertained, exhausted, and divided, too busy fighting each other to notice who the real enemy is. But history has shown a simple rule. When enough people wake up, empires fall. No power in the world can stop a society that decides to reclaim its future. The question is not whether change is coming. It's whether you will be ready when it arrives. Right now, humanity stands at a critical crossroads. One path leads to a world controlled by digital money, surveillance banking, and total financial dependence. A system where freedom exists only for those who obey, and where disobedience means economic erasure. The other path leads to transparency, decentralization, and a future where people, not institutions, control value and opportunity. What happens next will define the next century. The collapse of old systems is not the end. It is the beginning of something new. But revolutions never wait. They are claimed by those who understand the moment and refuse to remain silent. We have a choice: to be spectators or to be participants, to be controlled or to be free. The world is changing fast. Every crisis is accelerating the shift. And when the dust settles, you must choose which side of history you stand on. You can continue living in a system designed to exploit you, or you can step forward, learn, prepare, and act. Freedom begins with awareness, and awareness begins with truth. Open your eyes. Think for yourself. Ask questions. Demand answers. Because the most dangerous thing you can do in a corrupted system is understand how it works. If this message resonates with you, share it. More people need to wake up. The time is now.